4 bikers just dragged my wife into a van, and the only thing left in my kitchen is a broken coffee mug on the floor. The HOA president of my neighborhood— yeah, you heard that right, the HOA president hired them over a damn fence dispute. And as I stood there staring at the empty security feed, I realized Catherine Baker had just made the single worst mistake of her life. Because she thought I was just another soft suburban husband she could push around. She had no idea I spent 20 years as a Delta Force operator. When Olivia and I moved to Maplewood Estates, all I wanted was peace. A backyard for her garden, a grill for me, a quiet life where I didn't have to check every exit or scan every face in a crowd. I traded combat boots for khakis and hoped my brain could finally stop running on survival mode. Olivia's an elementary school teacher, the kind of person who sees the best in everyone, and she believed this neighborhood could be home. But from day one, Catherine Baker, the self-proclaimed queen of Maplewood, had her sights on me. It started with the fence. I built it 8 feet tall for privacy because after years of war zones, I like knowing who can see into my yard. Regulations said 6 feet. Fine. But half the houses on my street had taller fences. I sent Catherine an email, polite professional, asking if we could work out a solution. What I got in return was a $500 violation notice and a threat of escalating penalties. Then came the morning routine. Every day at 6 a.m., Catherine was out there with a ruler crawling around my property line, photographing every angle. Imagine a 55-year-old woman in a power suit kneeling in the wet grass like some kind of deranged scientist waking the neighborhood with her camera clicks. My neighbor Laura pulled me aside and whispered, "She's obsessed with you. This isn't normal." At first, I laughed it off. I thought it was just suburban pettiness dialed up too high. But deep down, something about the way Catherine looked at me didn't sit right. The community meeting confirmed it. Catherine came armed with a PowerPoint presentation labeled Neighborhood Standards Violations. She accused me of unauthorized solicitation for helping an old lady with groceries, excessive water use for washing my car, even called Amazon deliveries commercial disruption. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably, whispering to each other. That's when I decided enough was enough. I pulled out my own slides, courtesy of my buddy Alex Morrison, a private investigator, and more importantly, my old Delta teammate. We documented every violation in the neighborhood, including Catherine's. Her own fence stood at 8.2 feet. Her best friend's monstrosity was 8.5 with decorative spikes. By her own standards, the board owed $73,000 in fines. The room went silent as the numbers flashed. Her mask slipped for just a second, rage flickered before she forced on that politician's smile. But the way she stared at me— it wasn't embarrassment, it was calculation. Like this wasn't about fences at all. Later that night, I caught her outside at 2 a.m., standing motionless across the street staring up at my bedroom window. When our eyes met, she didn't flinch or look guilty. She smiled, slow, knowing, then walked away. The next morning, the bikers showed up. At first, it was one guy revving his Harley past my house, then 2 of them parking across the street with binoculars polishing chains like extras in some B-movie. By day 3, all 4 rolled in circling my block engine screaming until the whole neighborhood was on edge. Their leader, Derek Razor Hayes, an ex-soldier turned wannabe thug, finally confronted me. 2 in the afternoon, right in front of everyone. He cut his engine, swaggered up in his leather vest, and yelled across my yard, "We had a chat about your compliance issues." "Nice family you got there." Shame if accidents happen. I played the part khakis, polo shirt, glasses, hanging on a chain, the picture of harmless suburban dad. But inside, my stance had shifted, eyes scanning knife placement, escape routes, weapon opportunities. 20 years of tactical training don't just vanish. I asked which business interest he represented, watching his face redden when he realized I wasn't intimidated. He muttered something about my family needing better security, and that's when the switch flipped. "Threaten me all you want, but bring my wife into it and I'll burn your whole operation down." The cops said their hands were tied. My lawyer wanted $5,000 up front for a restraining order that wouldn't stop chains and knives. Olivia's hands shook when she watered her plants. My neighbors avoided eye contact, too scared to pick a side. One night I sat in the dark staring at that violation notice, and I thought maybe she's right. Maybe this isn't worth it. Maybe I should just rip down the fence, sell the house, and run. For the first time in decades, I felt powerless. I'd faced warlords and insurgents, but here I was cornered by a middle-aged HOA president with a clipboard. Then Alex came over with his laptop. He'd been digging. Catherine wasn't just on a power trip, she was running a property scam. She harassed families with bogus violations, drained them with legal fees and repairs, then mysteriously buyers appeared offering cash at half-market value. 47 families in 4 years forced out of their homes. $8 million in profit. And Catherine had approached Laura too, offered to buy her lot. When Laura refused, she suddenly had foundation damage that nearly bankrupted her. That was the moment everything snapped into focus. This wasn't about rules or fences. This was personal. And when I got that anonymous text, Marcus always said you'd bring trouble. Some lessons need to be taught twice. I froze. Marcus Baker, my former commanding officer, the man whose illegal orders I refused in Afghanistan, the decision that ended my military career. Classified court-martial buried so deep most soldiers never knew it happened. But somehow, Catherine did. The intimidation escalated. The bikers started parking outside at night. Olivia's phone buzzed non-stop with unknown numbers. I fortified the house, cameras, locks, contingency plans. And then came the order Catherine should never have given Kidnap, my wife. Olivia was leaving school after parent conferences when Derek and his goon blocked her car. She pepper-sprayed one, screamed for help, but they shoved her into a van. My phone buzzed. Her GPS tracker was moving fast toward the industrial district. 3 calls, voicemail. That was it. Civilian life was over. The ghost of Delta Force was back. I grabbed my gear, body armor, combat knife, night vision goggles I swore I'd never touch again. Alex tried to talk about backup, but I cut him off. They took Olivia. I'll bring her back. The warehouse district was perfect for amateurs, dark abandoned, no cameras. I sent up a drone, spotted 4 heat signatures inside 3, standing 1 tied to a chair. Olivia. I cut the power to the building, slid through the skylight on rope. Rico, the lookout, dropped from a taser before he knew I was there. Jake, distracted by his bike, went down in a chokehold. Tony stepped into the dark with a flashlight, and I took him silently. That left Derek. Alone in the main room, panicked, waving his light like a kid telling ghost stories. Olivia sat bound, but when she saw me in the dark, her eyes steadied. I stepped from the shadows. Voice low. Step away from my wife. "Who the hell are you?" Derek shouted, knife shaking in his hand. "Someone who's hunted men like you for 20 years, I said, circling him in the black. He lunged. 3 seconds later, his own blade was at his throat, my grip iron around his wrist. "What did Catherine tell you to do?" I demanded. His voice cracked. "She said you'd remember Afghanistan. Said to hold your wife until you signed. She never said you were military." That was all I needed. Proof, intent, a confession. By the time the FBI rolled in, Alex had called them once I went dark. Derek was begging for leniency, spilling everything. He admitted Catherine was behind it, all the property scam, the bikers, even the obsession with my past. 2 days later, at the HOA meeting, federal agents walked Catherine out in handcuffs. Her face twisted with 15 years of hatred. She screamed at me across the room. "You destroyed my husband's career. 20 years of marriage gone because you couldn't follow orders. I rebuilt everything, and I'll destroy every family if it means you finally understand what you cost me." The neighbors, the same ones she ruled over with citations and fines, watched their president melt down, ranting about classified operations she had no right to know. For years, she hid behind regulations and authority, but in the end, her power was nothing but a mask. And as she was shoved into the back of that FBI car, I realized something. Sometimes, the most dangerous enemy isn't across an ocean. Sometimes, they're standing in your cul-de-sac, hiding behind a clipboard, smiling while they ruin lives. Never mistake kindness for weakness.